Make your day right. Gilly Bonny Online TV. Kupata habari mpya na kwa haraka kila siku, usisahau kusubscribe kisha like na comment. Gilly Bonny Online TV.
Goods and services, who buys them in enough quantities for the concerned enterprise to make profit. The population of Tanganyika at independence was 9 million people with very little purchasing power. That of Uganda was 6.5 million. Kenya was 7 million. Zanzibar was 299,000. Could business make profits with such small markets? That was the logic of the East African community, of at least 9 from Tanganyika, plus 6.5 from Uganda, plus 7 from Kenya, plus roughly 0.3 million from Zanzibar, which would give you a population of 22.8 million people. The market of these 22 was better than the fragmented small populations of each country. Our leaders went further, and under the Kampala Agreement of June 1964, they agreed that each country specializes in a number of items for exchange. Those who eventually ruined the East African community in 1977 did not include Mwalimu. When we gained leadership in 1986, Mwalimu had retired as president, but he was still chairman of the CCM. With Mzee Moi and Mzee Mwinyi, we revived the negotiations for the re-establishment of the East African community, which was eventually relaunched on the 30th of November 1999. The EAC is the savior of many enterprises in the respective countries. The other day, I visited a Chinese factory in Mukono, near Kampala, making motorcycle tires and the inner tubes from natural rubber. It is making 10,000 tires per day. Uganda, however, consumes only 3,000 per day. East African community and Congo are the ones buying the rest. Otherwise, this factory would collapse. This is the same story throughout East Africa. Without integration, there will be no economic or social prosperity for our people. Mwalimu excelled on this front. It is, however, on the fifth point that Mwalimu stands almost alone in excelling. Working with his comrade in arms, Mzee Karume, they formed the Union of Tanganyika and Zanzibar in 1964 to create the Union of Tanzania, which has prospered up to today. As His Excellency Magufuli has just said now, this was the only successful effort of post-colonial political integration. Other efforts, such as the Union of Ghana, Guinea, and Mali, or Senegambia, the Union of Egypt and Syria to form the United Arab Republic, failed because of the myopia of the leaders or the machinations of the imperialists, exploiting internal weaknesses. By overthrowing Nkrumah and Modibo Keita, the imperialists broke up the Union of West Africa. The economic integration of African countries helps to address the issue of socio-economic prosperity by uniting our markets if the integration is seriously implemented. Prosperity, however, does not solve the problem of strategic security. During the Second World War, the first victims of Hitler's aggression, were the advanced countries of Holland, Belgium, Denmark, Norway, and even France. This is not to forget Poland and Czechoslovakia. Therefore, prosperity does not automatically immunize a country against aggression. Even the highly developed Israel, in terms of technology, could not easily survive in the Middle East if it did not have the support of the United States. In the end, size and economic might matter. Libya was one of the most prosperous countries in Africa. That prosperity could not defend her against aggressors. Many of the African leaders have neglected this aspect, and some of us see danger here for Africa. The Americans, the French, and a few others are talking of four-dimensional superiority, i.e. superiority on land, in terms of land forces, superiority in the air, in the sea, because of the navies, superiority in air, because of the air forces, and superiority in space, putting weapons in space. Indeed, the USA recently created a space command as separate from the other commands. Where does this leave Africa? I'm therefore very happy that the present leaders of the East African community have agreed on the initial step of forming the East African Confederation. A constitution drafting committee is working on draft proposals for the constitution. On the first target of ensuring the survival of the African people through the 500 years of endless afflictions on account of the greed of foreigners and the bankruptcy of the African chiefs, credit cannot go to any modern leader. Credit goes to the African people who, in the last 4.5 million years of continuous existence here on earth and in Africa, were able to have an advanced African civilization, going from the Stone Age, the invention of fire, the invention of iron, the invention of crop agriculture, and the invention of the art of domesticating livestock, cattle, goats, sheep, chicken, etc. It seems it is this advance in civilization that saved our people and enabled them to withstand all these afflictions by foreigners and the local tyrannical chiefs. The indigenous peoples of the Americans were decimated mainly, it seems, by diseases brought by the Europeans, smallpox, etc. In our case, it seems that we benefited from the zoonotic diseases, the diseases that go from animals to human beings and vice versa. Since our ancient civilization had created a bond between us and the domestic animals, I even find a lot of difficulty calling cattle animals, those livestock were able to vaccinate us against many of these diseases because we stayed with them in our huts and in the kraals. The brother of my grandmother, by the name of Kachokora, defeated smallpox in 1893 that was brought to Uganda by the Arabs. I myself, without a vaccine, defeated smallpox in 1963 when I was 18 years old. I had never been vaccinated. I had defeated polio that affected my sister in 1955. Again, I had had no vaccination. It is this strength of genes and civilization that saved our people and our land, the bankruptcy of the chiefs notwithstanding. My interaction with Mwalimu started in 1968 after I had led a solidarity group of students to the liberated areas of Mozambique in Cabo Delgado. He invited us to Musasani and we briefed him on what we had seen. He was very happy. I remember doing a lot of justice to the salted koroshos with sodas served by Mama Maria Nyerere. I really ate those koroshos. When Amin seized power, our group from NASA stayed for all the 8 years in Tanzania. The last batch, which was led by Mama Janet, to go back to Uganda with 3 Tanzanians, which His Excellency Magufuli talked about. One Tanzanian was born in Ocean Road Hospital. Another one was born in KCMC in Moshi. Another one was born in Muhimbili. So they were the last group to go back to Uganda. Under the command of Mama Janet. She was the one commanding that little squad. Those must have come to Uganda late in April 1979. During that time, I used once in a while to discuss East Africa with Mwalimu. When we took leadership in Uganda in 1986, an effort in which Mwalimu again made a very important contribution in September 1985, having seen that we were a credible force even beyond his initial estimation, we continued to discuss East Africa and Africa. The last time I discussed with him was in a house in Arusha, behind Mount Meru Hotel, during his handling of the Burundi peace process. I would call it the last supper that I had with Mwalimu. Ndugu Butiku and Ndugu Adam Marwa were there, and they know what we discussed. On that occasion, Mwalimu was standing in the sitting room of the house, waiting for me with the Ndugus Butiku and Marwa. Standing on the veranda outside, but within the hearing of those who were inside, was a Tanzanian short lady that was working as Mwalimu's aide, whom I knew spoke Kihaya. On the veranda, I greeted her in Runyakitara, our language of those areas, the language of Western Uganda and other parts of Uganda, northwestern Tanzania, Karagwe, Buhaya, Bujinja, Ukerewe. You could even add Kigoma. I said, Nogambaki, what are you telling me, or what news do you have for me? She answered, Che Tinyine Bigambo. It is like everything is all right. We do not have any problem here. Then I said, Nokerero Mugurusi, are you working for Mzee? She answered, yes, I am working for Mzee. Mwalimu overheard our brief standard greeting conversation. He then asked, Mnasema lugha gani nyinyi watu? He appeared surprised that we spoke the same dialect, the artificial colonial borders notwithstanding. He probably commented on this later. Ndugu Butiku and Marwa would have better information. I was, however, surprised that Mwalimu, who supported African integration so much, appeared not to know how close some of those African peoples are. Maintaining these colonial borders is actually a cultural aggression of the worst type. I never got a chance to again discuss with him. He had actually decided that he himself and myself should visit the border areas where, as he said in his own words, I used to operate during the wars, as he said. Recently, President Magufuli invited me to Chato, which means a big boat, a big canoe in those dialects, where there is a new world-sized airport, still in development. The village near the airport is called Nyabirezi. This is old, deep language of the people of the lake areas, on which I had to check with the elders my own proficiency in Runyankwere notwithstanding. Apparently, depending on whether you go up or down in pronunciation, the word Nyabirezi means either conversions in children, conversions like when they get conversions, or means a white patch on the face of a cow, also known as a chasha. Now, Ebirezi means patches on the face, and Ebirezi, when you go down, means conversions in children. If it is conversions, it could mean that the area had a lot of mosquitoes that would be causing malaria. The locals then would say there is that area, that is an area of malaria that causes Ebirezi in children. The oneness of the African peoples is simply amazing. Most interesting are the Nyachusas, who greet Ogonile in their language, which means, did you sleep well? But it means snoring in Runyankore. Not too far. Snoring and sleeping are not too far. In the area of Chato, you have Katwamba, a place where there is a grass known as cynodon. The botanical name is Virifa stellate. That's the Orshwamba. Bwanga, where possible, there is Obwanga Rubingo, a perennial plant whose botanical name is Tifa latifolia. Then you come to Mwanza with the Bugando, which means Acacia hohai, the botanical name. Busisi, the ferry wire used to cross. These are little black ants whose zoological name is Monomorium minima. These types of similarities are found on all the borders of Uganda with Rwanda, DRC, South Sudan, and Kenya, and are indeed found on the borders of all the African countries. Same peoples split by colonial borders. Therefore, when Mwalimu supported fervently the idea of the East African Federation, it must have been possible for the strategic imperative of strategic security. I remember he is said to have pointed out that weak states are like an indecently dressed woman who by her indecency tempts the wicked. In order not to lead the wicked into temptation, but to deliver them from evil, we must be strong through political integration, having achieved economic integration, which is for prosperity. Of course, Mwalimu emphasized the importance of Swahili for this integration. A powerful Swahili-speaking African state has always been waiting for us. Apart from the East African community, people in Eastern Congo speak Swahili. However, even before Swahili, this region had a lot of similarities and linkages that should be highlighted, as shown by the above examples. I'm glad Mwalimu created this foundation before he died. I'm glad the Chinese have come to our aid. Long live the memory of Mwalimu. I have said before, and I'm here to repeat it again, that Julius Kambarage Nyerere was the greatest African that ever lived, that I'm aware of, in terms of value addition to the Africans' efforts for freedom and dignity. I've been most pleased to be his follower, student, and comrade in arms. I thank you.
Kwa heshima kubwa naomba tupige makofi mengi sana kwa heshimiwa marais wetu.
Mkuu wa chuo kikuu kishiriki cha Marian Maruko cha Mtakatifu Agustino Sauti anapenda kuwatangazia umma kwamba chuo kinaendelea na udahili wa wanafunzi katika ngazi ya shahada kwa mwaka wa masomo 2019-2020 katika masomo yafuatayo: Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Statistics, Bachelor of Education in Science, Physics and Mathematics, Bachelor of Education in Science, Geography and Biology, Bachelor of Education in Science, Geography and Mathematics, Bachelor of Education in Science, Physics and Biology. Muombaji awe na ufaulu wa angalau D2 kwa kidato cha 6 na kuendelea, au na stashahada kwa kiwango cha ufaulu wa GPA 3.0 na kuendelea katika masomo ya science. Namna ya kuomba kujiunga: tembelea tovuti yetu www.maruko.ac.tz au fika chuoni Marian Maruko, Bagamoyo. Ada ya udahili ni shilingi 10,000. Kwa maelezo zaidi piga simu nambari 0769832937 au 0713751098 na 0674098660. Mwisho wa kupokea maombi ni tarehe 13 ya mwezi wa 9 mwaka 2019. Imetolewa na afisa udahili Maruko. Wisdom and knowledge for freedom. Make your day right. Gilly Bonny Online TV. Kupata habari mpya na kwa haraka kila siku, usisahau kusubscribe na kubonyeza button ya notification.